so I was like, how does he even see her? And she was like, her mom's
All right, hi everyone. Hope you guys are enjoying the pizza. We're gonna get started now on the Zoom. Can you guys, bro? Can you give me a thumbs up? Make sure you guys can hear me. Okay. Fantastic. Okay, great. Hi everyone, it's nice to meet you all. Welcome to our second in-person panel and third panel overall. My name is Emil Qatar. I'm the EVP of NUMA. This is Rachel.
I'm the president.
She's the president.
Nice to see everyone.
And we are going to be talking to you today about marketing co-op search info session tips. It's a long title, but we got a lot of stuff to teach you guys today, or to educate you guys about today. It's a great panel we have today. Before we do that, let's just kind of address some action items. Here we go. Attendance, and then this is general official membership. Find, those details we kind of do. We cover every meeting in case this is your first meeting here. Then we'll address email chair. We have a new e-board position open up. Talk a little about Newman. Address fundraiser we have, and then get into the panel and Q&A. So attendance, if you guys haven't already, you feel free to take a picture of the QR code. Just to log in.
Yep. I believe there should be like a little question at the end. So just like fill out the little survey that comes with it so we know that you attended.
Or you fail. Just kidding.
Yeah, no. Then you can't come back.
Just make someone laugh at my jokes. Well, for like 40 right now. One.
I was just trying to set
All right. If you guys can get it to, I think I should.
Okay, well,
Okay. So again, if this is your first meeting here, welcome. This is a breakdown between what the difference between a general and official member. So a general member, you can attend all of our weekly meetings here and all our community service events. This one is no cost, so you can come every time. Feel free. The official member is a little bit different. Those people pay dues of $20 a semester or $35 for the year. In addition to attending all the weekly meetings that we have in community service events, you also get your name listed on our website as a member, as well as access to membership-only events and potential job offers or job opportunities that employers email us about. You can also apply for some of our flagship programs like NUMA Consulting and NUMA Network. NUMA Consulting is kind of like our program where you can partner with clients in the marketing research work, and NUMAN is our kind of like our mentorship program, which I'll talk more about later on. And as well as any conference or events or seminars or like even certifications that we kind of get, you get access to attend those for free.
Yeah, and just a quick note, if you are an official member, you should have gotten an email today, and like an official member's email. So if you did not get one and you have paid to be a member, definitely reach out and we'll make sure that you're on the right list.
Yeah. Membership dues, I touched upon this prior, but $20 for the semester, $35 for the year. They're payable to Oscar Stroud. He is our VP of Finance, so just send him a Venmo with your full name, Husky email, and just the title NUMA membership dues. We also take Zelle, and if you do Zelle, you can reach out. I'm going to name as Zelle, so you can talk to me after the meeting if you don't have Venmo. Yeah. And okay.
Yeah,
Share with her?
So I'm Becca. I do all the emails. I need help. I need an email chair. Kind of like be a little bit design oriented, willing to learn like MailChimp. It's probably going to be like 2 or 3 emails a week. We have probably like a little under like 2,000 general members. So yeah, if you're interested, scan the QR code.
Fantastic. I think this is the QR code to see that piece of application, is that correct?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So feel free to scan it if you want to take a look at the Google form. Moving right along. So NUMAN. So for those of you who don't know, NUMAN or NUMA Network is kind of like our mentorship program. You basically you can apply and become a mentor or mentee. If you're a mentor, you can mentee or mentor a bunch of freshmen or sophomores, underclassmen, and kind of give them marketing co-op advice similar to what we'll be doing in this panel today. And if you're a mentee, you're kind of looking for that kind of role model or that guidance from an upperclassman who maybe has been in your shoes before. So we encourage you to apply for this. This is a great program. I wish I had this when I was a freshman and sophomore. So definitely would advocate this is a great program to be a part of. How do you join? So again, we love QR codes, as you can see. So you can scan that QR code. I think it takes you to a link tree with a bunch of other links as well. So if you're a dues pay member, you have access to this as well. And yeah, that's about it for this. And in terms of events coming up for NUMAN, there is an October 7th co-op crash course. So very kind of building off our meeting today. It's kind of a co-op crash course to help you answer questions from students who have been in co-ops and stuff like that. So you want to keep your eyes peeled in the email for more information about time and place and location, things like that. Okay, In terms of fundraiser, we have a Pliables fundraiser coming up on October 12th, the one on Huntington Ave. If you just show this poster over here or mention the catchphrase Numa, when you place your order, 10% of your sales come to us, and which we use for us. No, I'm just kidding. We'll use it, to better the program and give you guys more offerings in the event. So, and you deserve a Pliables. Why not? Yeah, feel free to. We'll put this again in other presentations, so you got a couple weeks before this comes up. And now introducing our panelists. We have Mr. Frankie Gonzalez attending us in person. Mr. Gonzalez is one of the members of the assistant cooperative education faculty. And then over Zoom, we have Ms. Brooke Johnson. Brooke, are you there?
Yes, hello.
She's joining us remotely, and we have Miss Christina Roberts was actually supposed to join us, but something came up. But she wishes she was here, and she is a phenomenal resource. So definitely, if you're interested in talking to her, she also works with CAMD, which is like the arts media design program. So if that's something you're interested in investigating, we can give you her email, and definitely would encourage you to connect with her after this panel. Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, anyone have any questions on the slides that we talked about before we get into marketing co-op search tips?
Yeah, so we have access to these slides after the meeting.
Yeah, I guess we can just solve it for now. Absolutely.
You can share them in the Slack. Are you on the Slack?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, we'll publish it. Anyone else? All right. Cool. That being said, let's get right into it. So if we could have, why don't we just go in order we have, so we'll go Frankie and then Brooke, if that's okay. If you could just introduce yourself and kind of tell us your title and your role at Northeastern, and if you want, fun fact. That'd be cool.
I got a lot of fun
I know,
facts.
he has a lot of fun
I
facts.
got a lot of fun facts. That's gonna be the hardest part of this whole intro, is like, which fun fact do I give you?
We'll just stop it after this.
Okay. My name is Frankie Gonzalez. I am one of the co-op faculty at DMSB. I work predominantly with marketing students. So you guys all should have a co-op coordinator assigned to you. I know I have some students here that I'm assigned to. So Frankie Gonzalez, I've been here for 21 years. I know I don't look that old, but I am old. Yeah, Frank Gonzalez, 21 years working with students. And fun fact, I do work in sports. I do work for the Red Sox, and I do a lot of work for them in the Dominican Republic. So that's what I do for fun.
Very nice.
All right, Frankie's a hard act to follow, so I feel like I'm going to be sort of following in his trail each question. But my name is Brooke Johnson. Frankie, please text me if at any point my tech gets bad and no one can hear me. I also work in DeMoore-McKim Co-op. I have been here 11 years as of January, so hard to believe. I also predominantly work with marketing students and all the new concentrations, brand and marketing analytics. And we also work very closely with employers that are interested in our students. Fun fact, I was struggling on this, and I don't have a job at the Red Sox, sadly. I asked my 7-year-old son what fun fact I should share for this panel, and he told me that I should share that he has a pogo stick record of 1,000 jumps. So that's not really about me, but he is my genetics. So that's all I got tonight.
I think you topped the Red Sox, I think. I think so. Well, great. So before we kind of get in, I think maybe there's some members of our audience who don't know what a co-op is. So can one of you guys talk about what a co-op is and how it might differentiate between an internship or a full-time job?
Ooh, yeah, if you're here at Northeastern and don't know what a co-op is, I'm gonna explain it to you. Pretty much a co-op is anything that's 32 plus hours a week and over 4 months long. Internships not technically, but tend to be on the shorter end with shorter hours. And my opinion, you don't get nearly as much out of an internship than you do with a co-op. So you're more of a employee. You're usually embedded into the company when you're a co-op and versus an internship. That's my definition of the two.
Yeah, and I always add to what Frankie said is that I think hopefully, being at Northeastern, as Frankie said, and especially in DeMoore-McKim, you're somewhat familiar with what co-op is. I think, DeMoore-McKim, it's all about co-op, and the hope is that there really is an intersection between what you're doing in the classroom and bringing that to work, and then bringing what you learn at work to the classroom, which I think is different than your sort of standard internship that you might do, just because, as Frankie said, you're there longer hours, you're generally full-time, and you're there for much longer time periods, so usually about 4 to 6 months. And I would also say you have a lot of support if you take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's endless amount of resources and support that Northeastern offers. But really quickly, I just got a request to, enable the transcription. Is everyone okay with me doing that? Just want to make sure everyone's good with that.
Sure.
Great. I've never used it before, so hopefully it works. Okay, great. Well, now that we kind of have an understanding of what a co-op is, can you guys kind of go into details about what are the companies and roles that Northeastern offers as part of the co-op program?
Now I'm like.
Distracted.
Transcript. I'll let you take that stuff if you want.
Yeah, you can start, Frankie, if you want, since you're live and you can see the people.
What are some of the types of companies and marketing roles that are available on AnyWorks?
Wow. We have all types of companies within all the different types of industries. We have tech companies. We have cybersecurity companies. Off retail companies, fashion companies. Type of marketing jobs. We have marketing analytics. We have market research. We sometimes have. We have social media, digital marketing, strategy, brand marketing. And keep going with the list of different types of marketing roles. It's just a large number of jobs that will get posted along throughout this cycle. And so, if you have access to the system, you're more than welcome to go into New Works if you have access to New Works, to look at some of the jobs, look at some of the companies that we have in the system, just to sort of you can explore. I don't know if many of you here are not searching for a co-op yet, or if you are, but if you have access to the system, you'll be able to look in and see all the different types of companies, all the different types of jobs that we have in all the different industries as well.
Yeah, and I'll just add, so I think a lot of students know that a big part of Frankie and I's role is really engaging with students, but another big part of our job is engaging with employers. So doing employer job development and really trying our best to understand the needs of students and try to make sure that we have a co-op program that matches student interests as well as industry trends. Sometimes there's some challenges in that, and Frankie can speak to it specifically. We have a lot of students interested in sports. Frankie works in sports. It's still kind of hard to get co-op jobs in sports. So you're not going to see volumes of, certain specific industries that sometimes have a little bit more cachet just because of its sometimes nepotism, sometimes other reasons, but we really do try to work closely to generate just a program that matches the industry and interest.
Yeah, there's a bunch of companies out there, and they're always adding more. So we can't wait to see how the co-op opportunities and offerings kind of expand as we keep going. So what are some important things to remember when applying for co-ops? Obviously, it can be very stressful. So what are some things that I should keep in the back of my mind when I'm applying for a co-op?
Well, you kind of have to know what you want. At least where to start off with. I tell students all the time that if you're searching for jobs within marketing, and this can go within any other function, if you're searching for jobs in marketing, you should really have a starting point, an understanding of where you want to begin. Doesn't mean that's where you're going to end up, but where do you want to begin? So I ask students to sort of understand all the different areas of marketing. And we have a book, I have a book that I usually recommend. It's Eric Seibert's book, Careers in Marketing, which Christina brought to our attention a few years ago. I think that does a really great job at dividing marketing into 4 categories. That's sort of easy to consume. But that goes with any other area of business that you're interested in. But it's really understanding where you want to start. And I think that's really key for your co-op search, because there's so many jobs in there that you'll just be overwhelmed. So just a starting point just to get going. And once you get going, you can sort of go off the road every once in a while and divert But you have an understanding of where you want to be for at least your first co-op. Second co-op is a slightly different, and usually we sit down with the students coming in to do their second co-op and figuring out what they want to do, but really kind of understanding where do you want to start.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I think go in open-minded, and obviously it's a plug for us, but I would say it's beyond us. Just know that you do have a lot of support, and I think Frankie and I both sort of feel the same way that, you know, as much as you put into it, we're going to meet you halfway, if not more, but you have to show us that you want to take ownership of your search. So I would really encourage, you know, all of you that are searching for co-op now or will be searching for co-op in the future, develop a strong relationship with your co-op advisor. If you're in D'Amour McKim, you'll also have a peer mentor. And so I'm going to give a plug for Emil, who is Frankie's amazing peer mentor and also worked with our entire team. I think that is unusual. I mean, I went to small undergrad liberal arts schools. I worked in Boston College's Career Center. The level of support that those small schools, which you would think they would be giving a lot of support because they were smaller, at least the programs, it's nowhere near what Northeastern provides for co-op. So make sure you take advantage of it. Also, most students across the university are taking a co-op course. I know in D'Amour McKim, it's BUSN 1103. It is a 1-credit class. I think sometimes students think, oh, 1-credit class, but Emil and your friends that are in the class and kind of have gone through, or that were in the class and have gone through the search will tell you it's more work than you will ever do for a 1-credit class, with the prep that you need to do for the interviews, with the interviews themselves. But I would say also with the work that we're asking you to do, it's not rocket science. It's really reflection based, but I think the more effort you put into that reflection, the more you're going to get out of it.
I just want to add sort of something, you know, that Brooke talked about is the support. Along with this work that you have to do for your BUSN 1103 comes a lot of stress as well. And stress is real. You know, you guys have a lot of other things that you're doing on campus. And this whole co-op process really does add a lot of stress. And again, we talk about the support. You should definitely talk to us, talk to your peer mentor, even talk to your colleagues and friends and classmates every once in a while, because everybody's going through the same sort of stressful time. And when you lean on each other, you guys can really get through this pretty easily, but the work is still there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure like if you're having some problem, I'm sure your classmates are having the same one, or your upperclassmate friends have had it beforehand. So there's no problem that it can't be fixed.
Oh, I want to add one. And you guys can get through it. Like Northeastern's been here for over 100 years doing this whole co-op thing, right? People go through it. Everyone has to go through the stress. It's not something that's impossible to accomplish. So you have to know that there is a co-op at the end of the rainbow. It's just you have to kind of go through that, you know? So wanted to say that too.
Reenacting St. Patrick's Day, fantastic. Okay, so when I'm applying for marketing co-op, what are they expecting me to know? What kind of experience do I have in my resume that can be most valuable for a marketing co-op recruiter?
Experience, you said?
Yeah, like what's something that I should want them to know? What's something that they expect me to know, and experience they expect me to have prior to getting a co-op?
All right. For me, it depends on the job, of course, right? You know, what type of job are you applying to and what kind of experience they're asking for. But honestly, when you're starting out, the experience that you bring to Northeastern is what you're going to be presenting. And so you have to present that in a way where it's palatable for them and help them understand why you and your experience is good for them and the open role that they have. And so any experience you can twist and you can, make it into something really pretty. We're not saying fib or anything like that, but you have to understand, how do you bridge your experience with the actual job description? So you'll have actually, let me just ask this. How many people have been through 1103? Okay. So most of you. Okay, so you understand the bridging exercise where you're bridging what your experience that you bring to the table with the actual job description. For those that haven't done 1103, you will have the opportunity to do this exercise where you look at the job description and then you look at your resume and your experience and try to match your experience with what's on the resume. So as you go through these jobs, you'll understand what it takes to do those jobs and what kind of experience it's looking for, but it varies based off of the job description and what you can bring to the table.
Yeah, I guess a little bit to add to that, I think, really pointing out Frankie's, idea of bridging. And I think a lot of times students think of technical skills when they're thinking about experience that they can bring, but I would say, and I think there's a lot of research to back this up, that really employers are hiring for the soft skills, or what we would say the hard skills are. And there's a lot of research out there that says employers are, engaging with students and trying to look for a high level of emotional intelligence. So folks that are good at communication, they're good at relationship building, they have empathy. And so thinking about how can you demonstrate those skills or experiences that you've had that show these soft skills. I think all the experience that you're trying to gain, I think being able to show that you appreciate data. I would say whatever fields that you're in, if you're a business student, a marketing student, whatever it is, any kind of experience that you could showcase data, I think is also going to be valuable. In addition, I think it's going back to soft skills, adaptability. They want to definitely see that, and also make sure that you're coachable, because at the end of the day, you're getting that interview probably because of your resume when you're applying for co-op, but they're hiring you for you. So you have to be able to demonstrate your personality, but then also those soft skills that you've gained from experiences.
Absolutely. Yeah, and kind of segueing more so into challenges. What are some common difficulties or challenges that you've seen students face when applying for co-ops?
I'm sorry, Emil, can you repeat that? Was it what challenges do students face when they're applying?
Yeah, like what are some difficulties and challenges that are normally faced by students either when applying for them or actually in marketing co-ops?
You want to start this one, Brooke, or do you want me to start?
I'll try to start, since you've been so kind and letting me just piggyback off everything you're saying. I think when applying, especially for your first, it's extremely overwhelming, right? You're looking in the system, there's a bazillion jobs. It's, where do you even begin? Also, I would say the pace of 1103, sometimes it doesn't align perfectly with where you're at in the process. So for example, Frankie and I were talking about behavioral-based interviews today in class. Most of our students haven't really started interviewing, so we're trying to prep them for it, but I think sometimes it doesn't make sense until you get in it. So I would encourage all of you to try to trust the process and engage as much as possible so that you are prepared when the time comes. But I think the timing, a lot of times students will ask me, well, but when does it start? And the timing is pretty fluid and open. And I would say I also equate it to a dance. So not every employer has deadlines in their job descriptions, which I think can be challenging. Not every employer is interviewing at the same time. So there is a lot of ambiguity, I would say, just in the whole cycle. But I think that's also preparing you for real life as you're going to think about searching for full time. So I think it's getting comfortable in some of the uncomfortable and trying to really engage in the support that you have, because that exact, process of how to, do everything right and sort of check the boxes, the dates, if it's not always there for co-op. There's not like a, if you do these things, you will 100% get a co-op. There's a lot of guidelines and suggestions, but there isn't one way. I think another challenge I see students face is, I understand the pressure that you're feeling, and life can be stressful, and you sort of look at what your roommate's doing, and it's hard not to compare and to get discouraged, and I would encourage you to try not to. Stay in your own lane. I always say to my marketing students, pay no attention to your finance and accounting friends. That process moves much faster. And, I think even as you're looking in your own search, if you have friends that are in marketing, it's like, pay attention to your search and be confident in the effort that you're putting into it. In terms of challenges that I see when students are on co-op, I think, recently, obviously the whole idea of working remotely, I think that's been a challenge for some students, and we're trying to provide additional support both to students and employers. And so I would say for all of you, go in open-minded. If you are going to have an employer that's hybrid or remote, you can make the best of it. We've had a lot of students have really, really good experiences, and definitely partner with your co-op advisor to help make that the best experience possible. I think some other challenges we see students run into is just maybe not taking initiative when it's on your first co-op, because you don't kind of know what the rights or wrongs are. And so just remember, and I make the bad joke to all my students, that, you know, Frankie and I, or whomever your co-op advisor is, you're stuck with us. And so we want to be a support to you when you're on co-op too.
Yeah, you pretty much covered everything, but I do think that, you know, one of the things is managing your time during this process. That's, especially during the fall cycle, you know, it is pretty stressful in the fall cycle. You're starting school, you get a shorter window to search for your job. So I think a lot of people find that challenging, just sort of managing their school schedule and looking for a job, and also going through our class sometimes. You know, one thing, I guess that, something that I guess a challenge when you're out on co-op, a lot of students talk about, you know, getting used to the work culture, just sort of navigating that and understanding, like, you know, whether or not they should be doing something, or, you know, who to ask and who to go to, especially starting remotely. Like, that remote culture is pretty new for all of us pretty much. And so just sort of getting that down can be somewhat stressful, especially when you have, you know, a team that, you know, isn't used to onboarding interns and co-ops remotely. So that was pretty challenged the last year. I think that might get better now, though. I think this cycle was, I've heard less complaining about that, but it's still a challenge.
And so we talked a lot about the application process, kind of segueing more about interviews. What are like some important things to always bring to an interview? This obviously not just for marketing co-ops, but in general, what are something really important to bring to any interview you go, whether in person or virtual?
Well, I mean, you should definitely do your research. So you should bring, if you're doing it physically, we always talk about bringing a portfolio where you can take notes and have your notes from your research. So that's always been an important factor from day one. Just bring in something that you can write with and show that, you know, you're interested. You know, bringing your resume is definitely a thing that we would recommend. The job description itself, just in case you need to refer to it again. That's always something you should have around you, whether it's virtual or in person. Virtually, I guess this is more of a preference thing, but virtually, I really do think that it's not necessarily bringing, but just sort of being aware of what your surroundings are, what's behind you, and letting your classmates, or not classmates, but your roommates know what's happening, that you're going to be in an interview. So it's not necessarily what you're bringing, but it's sort of what you're sharing. And also wear pants virtually. You just never know. I've been wearing shorts for a long time, so I'll have a nice thing, but know that I'm wearing shorts underneath. And I remember my dog was like barking like crazy. And I got up and ran, and I had my Red Sox shorts on with a nice shirt and tie. So I would say, you never know who's at the door, and if you get up accidentally and not paying attention, definitely wear pants. So you should bring those with you wherever you go.
Yeah, I concur, especially the pants. I think one day I was feeling extra lazy and embracing work from home and had pajama pants on with a nice shirt, and I also had to run, and then was, you know, luckily it was just the team members that were making fun of my pajama pants. But yeah, I think the only other, everything Frankie said is spot on. I would just add water, whether you're virtual or in person. I think also water is kind of a good trick. If you need a moment to pause and think, you could take a sip of water. But otherwise, I think you mentioned everything.
So there's one takeaway: bring pants and water wherever you go.
Pants and water. Good life tips.
A portfolio,
And portfolio.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
actually,
Christina would want us to say a portfolio really loudly if she was here, so.
I think we all know Hanson watermelon works and that portfolio. Yeah. So well, actually, so this is a good question. What are some good questions to ask interviewers when they flip the table and they ask them stuff?
Well, you know, you're gonna find yourself in situations where sometimes you write down all your answers before the meeting. And as you go through the interview process, they answer all the questions and you're like, oh man, I'm flat out. I don't know what to ask, but and we always say it's really important to have questions. I mean, our go-to responses are really, you know, asking about timeline, what might be the next steps in the process, understanding whether or not you have another interview if you get selected, or, you know, how many more people they have in line. They might be able to share that with you. But a timeline question is really something that they may not answer during the interview. So that's a go-to question.
You know, I always, you know, tell my students that you want to think of the question answer period as an extension of an interview. If you ask no questions, you're definitely probably not getting the job. So, you know, to Frankie's point, they may answer all your questions. You still might want to ask a couple just to show that you're engaged. I think some of the best questions you can ask are just follow up to the conversation to show you're interested, to show your enthusiasm. I like to really, you know, think about what does this question say about you? Again, from the perspective of it's an extension of an interview. So, you know, asking questions about, you know, what are the goals for this person in the first 3 months? That's going to indicate to the employer that you are interested or that you're goal oriented. I think especially if it was more of a conversational interview and you're trying to get a sense for like, okay, but truly what is this job? I think I like these people. I read the job description, but I want to know more. Instead of asking, what's a typical day? I encourage students to think of other questions like, can you give me examples of projects that I might have ownership of or that I might collaborate on? I think that will then, you know, again, indicate to them that you're interested in taking ownership and collaborating, but then also hopefully giving you a better sense of what the role is. And then, you know, back to the just building rapport, people love to talk about themselves. So asking some kind of question that gets them engaged in saying like, you know, why do you work here? Or a question that Frankie's probably heard me say a million times is, you know, I like to say, what is your team most proud of from this past year? That kind of hopefully will give them the warm and fuzzies and happy to talk about it. It'll give you an indication of maybe their management style, even as they're talking about what they're proud of from their team, and also a little bit more about maybe the values of at least that team, if not the company.
I think that's your question to ask Ryan. I like that one. That's what connected to go on. Kind of one last question about interviews, and we'll segue towards resumes, and then we'll open up the floor to Q&A for the audience. So if you had to give just one interview tip, you give one fun fact, you give one interview tip, I didn't have many. What would it be, and maybe why?
Brooke, I mean, I know Brooke would always say smile, right, Brooke? Like, and I 100% agree with that. You know, I do think that smiling and just really being someone that's happy, that looks like they're happy to be there, it looks like they're happy to meet you. I think that just sort of turns on this like this switch in people, like, you know, that make you think like, wow, I would like to work or learn to know who that person is now. Like, you come in with a smile, you come in with a positive attitude, and you'll probably get a lot more, you know, like points with just a smile. That's just one, and I know that's Brooks. I'm sorry, Brooke. I took that one from you. So I guess I'll give you another one.
Yeah, that is usually mine, and I feel like I should have been doing some research since I started here over 10 years ago, because whenever we're working with students that we just know are great and we don't understand why are they not getting job offers, we'll sort of do more practice interviewing with them. And I think Frankie and I both will probably say like, are you smiling? Like, what's happening there? And I swear, if I had been doing research, perhaps I could now be an organizational psychologist like Adam Grant and have some data on like just the power of a smile. So I echo that. The one other tip that I think Frankie will agree with is network with your peers. So that is really the best way that you can learn about experiences, given that your experience might be different. So you want to kind of remember that each person's experience could be different, but it gives you really good insight to the company. I think when you get interviews, there are networking lists that DeMormon has. Also looking at LinkedIn is a pretty easy way to find students that have been in those positions. Again, it gives you insights. It also allows you to demonstrate your research. So in the interview, you can name drop and you can say, I actually, had the opportunity to speak with Emil and he shared this, or, I talked with Rachel and she was sharing this. So definitely, I think the networking with peers, people don't do it enough. And we wish that you would do it more.
The one thing I would say also is know that they're not out to get you. Like they want to see you succeed. Like if you go in knowing that, you're going to have a conversation, you're just going to talk about some of the skills that you bring to the table. And you know that these people aren't just trying to get you scared or, just sort of catch you on something that you might have said in your resume or whatever. They're not out to get you. What they're trying to do is really get to know you. So I think if you can go in with that attitude of just like, this is going to be a conversation and it's going to be a friendly experience. I think that might help you in terms of your confidence in going into these interviews.
Absolutely. I like to think that it's more of a conversation rather than them interviewing me, because like I think I forget who told it to me, but it's like a two-way street because they're interviewing me as well as I'm interviewing them. Fantastic, awesome. Segueing a little bit into resumes and maybe a couple more questions if I have time, and opening up to Q&A. What are some potential red flags on a resume that you might see that might indicate to you that this person might not be the best candidate for a job?
I don't like typos.
Typos?
That typos to me is very lazy. It's definitely something you can correct. It doesn't show that you have good attention to detail. So there's really no reason for you to have typos on your resume. There's a lot of people looking at your resume, but you ultimately have the final say on what you submit. And I can't even tell you how many people have submitted resumes that Emil has corrected, and they just don't make those corrections. They still submit it. So that's the one thing that I can't accept.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, definitely for those of you that are in DeMormon Kim and are in 1103, I always say, like, our peer mentor's going to look at your resume. I'm going to look at your resume, but at the end of the day, like Frankie said, it's your document. So you have to have ownership of it. So we're only human. We might miss a typo. We look at a lot of resumes each semester. So I would say, even as you're working with us and working with peer mentors, get another peer's perspective, one more sort of fresh set of eyes to take a look at it. I think a typo can just ruin it. The other thing I guess a couple things is, the aesthetics of a resume, I do think are important, and I don't mean necessarily design. I always say like content is queen, that's what's most important. But if your resume is not laid out in such a way that it's neat and clean and, the lines and things align, no one's going to want to read it. So just do take the time to sort of invest in whether you're, pressing the space bar or tabbing, or you're getting fancy and using your margins to make sure dates and locations align, because I think it makes a big difference. And if someone's looking at a document that's inviting, they're going to want to read it. Strong action verbs, I would say if you're not using those, it makes it harder for employers, again, to want to read it. And the philosophy behind action verbs when you're writing those bullets is that invites the reader to keep reading. So I think if you don't include those, it's going to be a little harder to get the information in a concise way and want to read it.
So I think that phrase, don't judge a book by its cover, is probably used here, or is not used here, because employers are often judging resumes by how it looks. So one of the questions I have for you is, if I'm debating between putting two experiences, I have one over here and one over here, and I only have room to fit one, because obviously it needs to fit on the page, how can I figure out and deduce which one is the best to put and which one to toss out?
Wow, that's a hard one.
Did I stump you guys?
No, not stomp, just hard. Wow. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a couple of ways to do this, and Brooke, you can stop me if I'm going down the wrong path.
If you're wrong, yeah, I'll just tell you.
I mean, there's a couple ways to do this. I mean, it all depends on the job again. But I do think that whichever experience you think is the most versatile for the roles that you're applying for. I wish I had an example of two different types of roles, I guess, but that would have not made this a hard question, I guess. I don't know. I think really just understanding which role is going to give you the most versatility. And also, what do you want to say on your resume? Like, you know, when I look at resumes, what I look for is like, okay, you know, what is this person telling me? All right, they can communicate, they pay attention to detail. I can see that there. They've done roles where, you know, they've had to make decisions or project managed or whatever. Like, what is it that you want to say? So if you're going down your resume and you've already had a project management experience, you've already had something that, you know, shows that you can communicate, then what is that? What are those two experiences? What are they saying? And what do you want to say on your resume? So I guess that's how I would look at it. Is the story already told on the resume? Because if it's another project management experience, then maybe put in the, you know, I don't know,
Yeah.
communications role. You get it?
Gotcha,
So,
absolutely.
all right.
Yeah, and Frankie is not wrong. I agree with everything he said. And I think, you know, the whole job search process is a storytelling process, and there's storytelling that comes through on your resume. And so, as Frankie said, you know, as you're looking at all the different experiences or trying to decide which one, think about like where's the value add? What is the story that you would tell in terms of what you learned or the value you added or what you're proud of or what you overcame from that experience, and which one do you feel, you know, is most impactful? I would encourage all of you always to be looking at every single aspect of your resume, whether it's an interest or it's a specific experience, and make sure you can speak to it. Because I find that even as I work with second or third timers, sometimes I'll push them on stuff and they'll say, yeah, I don't really even remember that anymore. I'll say, okay, well, let's just take it off, because you could still be asked about it. So you want to own every single thing on there. And generally for your first co-op, you have one version of your resume, but it is okay to have the capacity and the time to maybe have more than one version that you kind of pop different experiences on or off based on what you're applying to. And then don't forget about LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you could really capture all of it, and you can put a hyperlink to your LinkedIn in the header of your resume. So even if you're not able to showcase everything on that one page, hopefully a lot of people are also clicking on your LinkedIn and they can see more.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I think I have time for one more question, and then I'll open up to everyone else. So, if our students or if our members want to learn more about, you know, co-ops, have more questions, want to find out more resources, who can they talk to, and where can they find these people, and where can they be directed? You know,
Christina Roberts.
everyone go to Christina Roberts.
No, I mean, you should all have a co-op coordinator that you can reach out to. And if you don't have a co-op coordinator, you can start with us and we can help you find someone that that may be your co-op coordinator. Yeah, you can come to us. Sorry, she's not here.
Anything to add, Brooke? Okay.
No, I guess I want to be cognizant that I generally think of NUMA as the Mormon Kim, but I also know it's open to all. So you should be assigned a co-op coordinator in your college. But again, if you're struggling to find out who that person is, typically you're assigned your second year. And if you're trying to sort of learn things sooner, I would say, you know, take advantage of everything that all the concentration clubs have, because that's a great way to get insight to the co-op process, but then also start networking with peers and networking with employers sooner. And that I think will give you kind of an edge as you know, if this is your first year and you're just starting to explore Northeastern, that will give you insights even before you're engaged in the co-op class and have an advisor.
Right, absolutely. I think definitely like leveraging your community at Northeastern is a great thing, because sometimes some employers, you know, do take the word heavily of their current co-ops. I know I was interviewing for a co-op last year, and one of the current co-op also interviewed me. So that was an interesting dynamic. So definitely leveraging your students as well as the faculty, you'll be good to go. Thank you. I asked all the questions. I have more, but of course I want to respect your guys' time. Do you guys, I like to open up the floor now to everyone else. You feel free to ask any questions to both Frankie or Brooke. We have about 10 or so minutes. Yeah. Have any questions?
Can you guys talk more about cover letters? Because a lot of businesses will offer like a cover letter option, but they won't make it required. And so like, just talk more about that and whether or not you should put a cover letter, especially if you have like 10 of them to apply to.
Yeah, well, cover letter is it's a hot topic. We were just talking about cover letters today. But if it's, it's really, ultimately it's up to you. You're doing all the work. In terms of cover letters, what I like to see in a cover letter is, are you letting the company know what you have to offer? What value do you bring to them? A lot of people write the cover letter where they only talk about me. I'm going to get this out of this co-op. I'm going to get this experience. I can't wait because I love this industry. I. But they know what they can give you. What they want to know is what can you give them? So when you're writing these cover letters, just ask yourself, do I tell that? Do I tell them what I can give them? In regards to your question about, should you write cover letters that aren't required? If we don't have to edit them, yes. Because, there's just so many, it's very, very time consuming. You have to write a cover letter, pretty much a new cover letter for every role. If you have that time and you're willing to do it and you're good at it, because that's the other thing. If you're not good at it, you're shooting yourself in the foot. So if you're good at it, if you feel confident in your abilities, we do have tools and we can refer you to the sites where you can look at how to write a cover letter. But if you feel confident, then go ahead and write a cover letter. These employers do have a lot of resumes to look at. But if they don't want to read your cover, they just won't. But again, if it's not required for the co-op process, you can skip it. But if you do want to stand out in a way, and like I said, if you're good at it, then go for it.
So essentially you could pick a couple of your top ones that you just definitely want to nail down and maybe do a cover letter for that.
Yeah, now the thing is, some of the positions in New Works might not accept the cover letter. They might just only want to see a resume. And so, some companies will have a separate site for you to go to, like Wayfair, for example.
Yeah, I'm kind of speaking about Wayfair.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Too soon.
Yeah, and I'll stop so Brooke can say something. But if, on our site, cover letter is not required. But when you go to their site, they're asking for a cover letter. So technically you don't have to do it, because we just spoke to the coordinator who manages Wayfair. She's like, no, you don't have to do it, but if you feel compelled to do it, then you can put it on when you apply for representative. What do you think, Brooke?
Yeah, I would say if folks are asking specifically about Wayfair and BCG, we've been told that just based on the volume that they're getting, they're really not looking at them. So I would say that's a generalization, but that did come from the two co-op faculty that are managing those relationships. I agree with everything Frankie said. I mean, a bad cover letter is going to kill it for you if it's not required. So I think you want to pick and choose. I think definitely lean on your advisor to get guidance on, is it worth my time? The workaround, if there was a position in New Works that was not sending you to the website, if it didn't require a cover letter and it was a top position, you wanted to invest the time in writing one, is you can create a 2-page PDF that the first page is the cover letter and the second page is your resume, and then apply with that document. But I think you just want to be thoughtful, and going back to some of Frankie's tips on cover letters, all the ones I read are all like me. And usually my feedback is like, but why the company? Why the job? So you absolutely, in that first paragraph, and if anybody wants, we send some standard tips. I have some quick tips, so you can feel free to email me after this. I can send you, it's kind of rough, but if I was going to apply for a job right now, exactly how I would write a cover letter. In that first paragraph, you have to say something like, I'm writing to present myself as a candidate for X position. I admire Wayfair's commitment to X and kind of look at something from maybe their mission or their values or like what resonates about the company, and then something about the position itself, like why are you interested in that position, a sentence there. And then I usually tell students like identify 3 things from there that you're going to talk about that make you an ideal candidate. So my internship experience in this, my passion for e-commerce, my academics, whatever it is, my broad strengths make me an ideal candidate. And then from there, you kind of build it out a little bit more to talk specifically. But I would just say, be thoughtful because you don't have endless time, and come to your coordinator and ask perspective, because oftentimes, like I generally, especially for Wayfair and BCG, would say, I don't think they're reading them. So.
I see we have a question on the Zoom. Lisa, do you want to come off mute and ask your question?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to ask about LinkedIn. I was wondering, just like how to use it, because I'm like a fairly new, like I just started using LinkedIn, and also I was wondering like what employers want to see when they like go into your LinkedIn page.
Yeah, do you want to start that, Brooke, or do you want me to go?
If you want to start, I can post a helpful link in the chat, which I would refer everyone to. And for those that aren't looking at the chat, maybe Numa can share it, or you can Google LinkedIn, Employer Engagement, Career Design, Northeastern, and there's a ton of great resources. I would also give a plug for LinkedIn Learning, which you all have access to, which gives some great tutorials on LinkedIn. So I would suggest starting there. Frankie, I don't know if you have any specifics to add.
That's where I was going with that. Yep, with the workshops over at the career design folks. Are they still having workshops? Brooke, do you know? Yeah,
They
right
are
now.
doing workshops. So there's a lot of resources on their website to get started, but then they also will be offering workshops that I think are hybrid. So I just put the resource in the chat. And again, LinkedIn Learning too.
So I'll leave that up here, if you guys can see that. Awesome. Lisa, is your question answered? All good?
Yes, it's all good. Thank you.
Yeah, Becca?
Yeah, going off of the LinkedIn, would you say, like, as an employer, that's a big deal if you go on someone's LinkedIn, they don't have like descriptions for each job?
Yeah, I mean, how descriptive? I mean, I think that you should have a little bit about what you accomplished. You know, with some of the results. You don't have to. Some people put everything that's on their resume on there. Some people just do a little summary of what they did, but it's more about the accomplishments. You don't really want to get into, like, you don't want to cut and paste a job description. You really want to just talk about the results that you had in that application. But I don't think it's going to be a deal breaker. If they're on your if an employer has your resume and then they go to your LinkedIn profile and see the same thing or doesn't see a description, I don't think they're not going to pursue you if they like what they see on your resume.
Anyone else? Any questions?
What about, let's say you don't have any formal positions, but you did like, help out, let's say your family runs a business, but you did some work with them, and you can actually say like, this is what I did, but I wasn't never like, hey, you were never paid or you were never actually an intern, but like, you guys speak about it, should you include that?
Yeah, no, that's your experience. You know, you have some experience doing, working for your family business. I mean, it's yours and you should own it. And really talk about it in a way that helps the employer understand that the experience that you had at your family business is relatable to what you're applying to. So yeah, I think, and that's why I said earlier about any experiences, your experience, you should really embrace it and use it if you can in the particular interview or in your resume. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think we do get that question a lot about, it was a family business, should I not include it? I find that actually, if you're engaged in your family business, you're probably doing all aspects of the business. So I think it's a great thing to share. And somewhat related, I always like to give a big plug for academic projects. And so especially for those students maybe that don't have experience, or sometimes you have a lot of experience, but there's a specific project that you did in a class. I think marketing research is a class students will feature a lot. I think featuring an academic project is a great way that you can showcase a skill set that you did in the classroom that can be applied to a workplace. So don't forget about those projects. They also are great just for when you're trying to answer behavioral based questions and think of examples. I always tell students, when in doubt, think of group projects, because you probably have an answer to every question from your group project experience.
Thank you guys, I appreciate it. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I know it is 8:01, so if you guys have to head out, please feel free. Maybe we can say, a couple, 3 or so extra minutes if no one has any last minute questions, but thank you all so much for coming. Really quickly, before I let you all go, in terms of our next meeting, which I will share right now. So our next meeting will be a digital marketing workshop. It's fantastic. I definitely recommend coming October 6th. We're still figuring out the correct room, so just stay tuned for that. It'll be, just keep your eyes peeled for that too. But yeah, and email us if you have any questions, or Slack us, or yeah. But thank you all for coming. Great having you. Have a great rest of your week.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for letting me join virtually.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna- Bye, later.